Okay, I wanted to share with you which are my thoughts on the GNOME desktop, because recently we have been told that Unity is going to be changed for GNOME, and I think that GNOME has some small issues, but they are very easily fixable, you know. And I think with a few tweaks or changes, those things can go away. And I wanted to give a bit of background about mostly why I'm doing this video. You have to know that before choosing Ubuntu, I tried almost every operating system, even no Linux operating system out there, and every possible desktop environment, and try to figure out which made a desktop environment good for the average person, you know. And I spent 2 years on that very intensively, you know. So at this time I can say that I have some idea of what makes a desktop environment useful. At least I have some idea about it. So I wanted to share with you which I see missing in this desktop environment and how we could fix it. Okay, so there are mainly two things which I think that they are important in a desktop environment, which is the ease of changing between applications. You know, for example, if I have the file manager, the web browser, which is asking me for a password. If I have these two, let's open a few more. The solitaire, you know, the question is how I change between these applications, and you will see that there's no visual way of doing it except of using this animation, you know. Some people will say that is enough, but it isn't. It's, in my opinion, it's a very bad design. It's not in the beginning you won't realize, when you won't find a big issue with changing this way, but when you have been using the desktop for a while, you will realize that this is somehow tiring because of two things. The first thing is you cannot see which applications are actually being open at a view. You have to go to activities and see that, which is somehow sparse. And the second one is this animation is just confusing. You know, having that amount of animations on Windows in the beginning is not a big deal, but after a while it's just confusing. And especially it's confusing because in many desktop environments which are not very powerful, and there are many of them, for example those using proprietary NVIDIA drivers, the desktop performance is not very stable, so all these animations are somehow unpredictable. In this computer somehow it's good because it uses an Intel graphic processor, but I have tested this in using the AMD Radeon proprietary drivers in the past and the NVIDIA ones, and simply the experience of these animations is horrible. But even if it was fluent, you know, it's confusing. It's confusing in the long run. It's like you have to be continuously switching attention. So mainly I think this desktop environment has this problem, which is how you change between windows and all those animations. It makes the desktop usage unpleasant to use. So I wanted to share with you which I think is the fix for this, or the workaround using the tweak tool. And I think that if Ubuntu is going to use this desktop environment, it should consider using these small tweaks, which are very small and doesn't differ too much from the standard GNOME, but on the other hand enhances usability a lot. And I know that Mark Shuttleworth has said that they aren't doing that, but in my opinion they should do that. And in fact I'm going to publish this video to the GNOME developers too, so they know about it. So what I will do, and what I think will be the perfect desktop environment under the GNOME umbrella, I think that animations should be off. So everything is more, you know, straightforward. You know. The second thing I think should be there is this dock should be always at view. I'm going to enable the extensions, which mostly are the dash2dock, the better volume indicator, and the hide activities button. You know, I think these are the tweaks that need to be there in place. So we have a dock like this, a dock with the show application button in the beginning and covering all this side of the screen. So simply, if you want to launch an application, you have at view which applications are there and how many windows there are open, so you can change easily between windows. See, it's very simple, and there's no strange animations. You want to go here, you click here. You want to go there, you click there. It's the most simple design and still good looking. And if you want to launch applications, click here. Okay. And well, basically I think this dock and not animations is the most important thing. But I would even suggest a more radical change, which is removing this bar, if possible, from here, but because it really does, probably it really doesn't do much. The only problem with removing this bar is that we won't have a method for switching off the computer, but I will do that when you push the physical button. You're presented with a dialog that shows you which options are available for switching off the computer, and that will be enough. The rest of buttons could help a little bit, but not really. You know, the Wi-Fi button, even the Wi-Fi button, is easily accessible when doing to the applications and looking for config settings. If you go to settings and you go to network, I don't see it now, network, you have here the Wi-Fi, and it's not something you are going to do frequently. It's still very straightforward. And the volume, if you use the keyboard, you will be able to see the volume. Even perhaps, well, that's just another possibility. And other thing I will do is to hide the application menu and have it on the window itself, and hide the top bar. You know, this is the desktop as I think is better and more useful. If I close all the windows, this is how the desktop, it doesn't seem that it has closed that window, that bar, hide the top bar. If I close it, well, there's another way of doing it, which is using the taskbar. If you use the taskbar extension and you go here to its options, you can hide the top panel, and it works consistently, you know. So this is how I think the desktop should look like. Just having the files and web browser here, and any further application that you launch goes here and has the dot points showing how many Windowses are open. And if you have any application on the status bar, it is shown here. But I think that the upper bar is just, perhaps it's not a good option, but I'm just suggesting considering it. What for me is the most important thing, and is mostly compulsory, is having this dock here fixed, and like this, with this aspect, and not having those animations which are very confusing. And that's what I wanted to say.